Trustees, if everybody else stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before us, we have our agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections by fellow board members or department heads at this time? I'm going to add under concerns of trustees Hall of Fame Marathon. Any other changes? Okay, the agenda will stand as amended. First item is unfinished business. Ms. Campbell.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution to approve and authorize payment to various vendors from a blanket purchase order for equipment purchased for the 2020 Sheriff Cruisers in an amount not to exceed $20,000.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes. Item number 2 is a resolution to waive the citation issued to George Pagonis for yard waste dumping and waive the $500 fine associated with the citation.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Just to clarify, this was heard at the last meeting, but there was a number of email and different conversations, and Lieutenant Carver was able to verify or validate the waste indeed came from a Plain Township-based property.
Correct.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Abstain.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes. And that's the end of unfinished business.
And that will take us to the fiscal officer's report. Mr. Wolf.
Thank you. Fiscal Officer number 1 is a request for resolution to authorize the payment of pending warrants in the amount of $445,003.15.
I will so move.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 2 is a resolution to authorize payment of regular payroll in an amount not to exceed $250,000.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 3 is a request for resolution to authorize payment for the following medical claims.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 4 is the investment report.
Thank you.
Fiscal Officer number 5 is a request for a new liquor license for John's Bar and Grill Incorporated located at 2658 Easton Street Northeast, Canton, Ohio 44721.
As far as we have no noted concerns or anything with factor in the, say, let it move on.
Okay. And Fiscal Officer number 6 is a request for a new liquor license from Can 605 LLC DBA Earth Fair, located at 3939 Everhard Road Northwest, Canton, Ohio 44709.
So moved, or sorry. I was looking at the next item.
Same thing.
Yeah, allowed to move on, barring no concerns.
Okay. And Fiscal Officer number 7 is a resolution that the form of amended section 125 premium only plan effective June 1, 2021 to May 31, 2022 presented this meeting is hereby approved and adopted, and that the proper officers of the employer are hereby authorized and directed to execute and deliver to the administrator of the plan one or more counterparts of the plan.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 8 is a request for a resolution to authorize the following transfers of expenses to the Coronavirus Relief Fund.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 9 is a request for a resolution to authorize the following transfers.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo? Or Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
And that concludes Fiscal Officer report.
Okay, it's gonna take us to the fire department. We've got Deputy Chief Reed with us.
Yes, thank you. Fire Department number 1 is to amend Resolution 20-554 passed on October 27th of 2020 to authorize payment to be taken from account 21A-021 or 2L to now be taken from account 10A-08 regarding the purchase and payment for RIP pack and miscellaneous adapters for SCBA systems from Howe Rescue Systems in the amount not to exceed $20,765.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Okay, Fire Department number 2 is to authorize the purchase and payment of ECO to hose from QDCIP Fire LLC per the attached quote in the amount not to exceed $39,000 to be taken from account 10A08.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fire Department number 3 is to authorize the purchase and payment of hydrant gate valves, Crestar nozzles and tips, and miscellaneous equipment from QDCIP Fire LLC per the attached quote in the amount not to exceed $6,200 to be taken from account 10A08.
So moved. Second. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Okay, Fire Department number 4 is to authorize the approval of the payment to Stryker Medical Incorporated for the maintenance contract as to 6 Stryker power cots and 7 power loads per the attached quote in the amount not to exceed $62,000 be taken from Fund 28A08B.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fire Department number 5 is to authorize the reimbursement to Adam Reardon in the amount of $400 for healthcare membership according to provision 37 of the collective bargaining agreement to be taken from account 10A-15.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And that concludes the Fire Department.
Thank you. Joe?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, item number 1 is a list of the road material bids that we received from the following companies: Shelley Materials, Maslin Asphalt, Oyster Sand, Gravel, and Highway Asphalt. The gravel products and limestone products pretty much went up between 25 and 75 cents a ton, which we use less of, but the one good thing, asphalt prices went down $5 a ton, what we use most of it, so.
Do you think some of that's due to Central being acquired?
It could be. I think we'll really find out this Thursday when we open up our paving bids if that's gonna stand true, so. I know they're trying to get the bid, so.
Gotcha.
Item number 2 is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, invitation for bids indicated that both price and proximity of the bidder's premises were to be considered in the evaluation of the bids. Therefore, be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to award 2021-2022 road material contracts to the listed businesses.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Item number 3 is whereas the Plain Township Board of Trustees has awarded the bid to the 2021-2022 road materials to Shelley Materials, Osa Sand and Gravel, and Highway LLC. Is a resolution to sign the contracts.
I'll move on road 3.
I'll second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
And item number 4 is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to authorize the hourly pay rate increase of 75 cents per hour for the following employees in accordance with the agreed upon road contract wages effective April 4th, 2021 for all probationary new hire road employees.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
And that is all for the road department. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. It's gonna take us to zoning. Tom?
Thank you, sir. Item number 1 is a resolution to declare items A through C as nuisance abatement.
So moved on zoning 1A through C.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
And that is all for zoning at this time.
It's gonna take us to Parks Department. Rob?
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution to hire Cole Bland as a seasonal parks, buildings, and grounds worker at a rate of $12 an hour and no benefits to be paid out of funds O1B, O1A, and/or Fund 14A01B with a hire date of May 1st, 2021, pending drug and alcohol testing.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Item number 2, simply a thank you to our firefighters union over 2967 who this week donated $1,000 to the Purple Heart Monument Project. So I wanted to recognize them and say thank you very much for your teamwork and for reaching out and doing that. That's very nice of them.
More? Next.
Finally, item number 3 is a resolution to hire Jean-Robert Pierre as a soccer supervisor, rate of $10 per hour with no benefits to be taken from 14A01B and/or 14A01B in the parks effective April 30th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
That concludes parks. Thank you.
It's gonna take us to communications. Ms. Campbell, or do you want me just to?
If you can read that, yeah.
Alright, so we have, thank you to the fire department. It reads, Dear Chief, thanks to the Plain Township Fire Department. I am now recovering from the heart attack I suffered on March 25th. The men on the squad are to be commended for their quick response, professional skills, and caring attitude. Your leadership has no doubt contributed to the high quality of service that the department continues to offer our community. Sincerely, Ian Duger.
Yeah, she actually is the wife, or the widow of Walt Duggar, who actually at one time served as the fiscal officer and was a captain on our fire department at Threes for many, many, many years.
Good detail. Brings us to the portion of the meeting, public speaks. If there's anybody in the audience that wishes to address the Board of Trustees, we ask you to state your name and address for the fiscal office and then proceed.
My name is Bob McCarthy.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I'm here to complain about on Mount Pleasant, 2501. That started 4 years ago. And I was in here a little over a year ago to talk to the people, I'm going to say about the 6th time. And I just want to, on one of the papers he gave me, it says, refuge and other debris. And then it says vegetation, refuge, well, the same thing basically. At least 7 days before providing for a statement of control or removal of them. The mess. I don't know whether any of you go on Mount Pleasant Road or not. That would be off the Middle Bridge.
Okay.
You know where Larch Avenue comes in? It's 1 block off of, but it only goes north, Larch. this house, if you was to go down Larch, you would run right into that big bank. Now, I was told, I can't get Tom? I was told by Tom that they sent a letter to the lawyer. Are you the lawyer?
I'm the lawyer.
Okay. What have you found out about it?
Well, I've found out essentially what we've worked through with our zoning department. A couple of things that I wanted to point out, and I talked to them before you came here tonight, sir, is that he has made some remediation efforts, as I understand it.
Where?
Well, that's what I've been told, is that he's made some remediation efforts.
He made some modifications from last year. He brought in an old truck and parked there now.
Right, and I think they've had fairly constant contact with this gentleman until just recently. Is that fair?
Letters, we did have some personal contact, and lately he's been
And it's okay.
unavailable.
Yeah. And I can tell you from 20 years of doing this, it's always better if I don't have to get involved, for everybody. Because once I get involved, everything slows down. If speed is your goal, it's always best if we can get the resident to do it on their own.
My God, if something's there for 4 years, I talked to the neighbor woman that lives right next door, and she says, you're wasting your time. She says, they won't do a thing to them.
Well,
That's actually false,
Yeah.
that's false,
So hold on.
unequivocally.
yeah, there's over 50 contacts with this gentleman and trying to work with him to get his
But
stuff
how many
cleaned
do
up.
you do before you get serious about it? That's what I want to
You
know.
have to, sir, you have to understand, we have certain limitations and laws that we have to operate within. That we cannot violate the individual's due process rights. And that's why Mr. Williams is working closely with the zoning office, so we don't overstep that bound, and then end up with an unnecessary lawsuit against the township, which will just further drag it out, and then they potentially become enriched at the benefit of the taxpayer. So we will never violate the due process rights. We're going to operate within the confines of the law. I get that it's frustrating, but there's not a single member on this board or on our staff that's going to violate a single rule, statute, or provision that is passed. Eric, I'll refer back to you.
Sure, and I guess what comes into play sometimes is, certainly he's gonna claim that whatever's there is valuable to him. You know, and you're gonna say it's an eyesore and it's worthless. And that's a dispute that actually we don't get involved in. Unless it's clearly trash, it's clearly debris, that kind of thing. Is the trash and debris your biggest complaint about the property?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else that stands out to you as an issue from your point of view?
Well, when you say something's worth money,
Yeah.
okay? He had a trailer there with just the steel
Okay.
sticking out. Then he turned around and he turned the trailer around, and I thought he was going to get rid of it.
Okay.
But he threw it into the dump truck, into the pickup truck.
Through what in the pickup truck?
That's part of the stuff from that trailer.
Oh, I see.
But I just wish I could get all you people that's on the board here, just to drive by once.
I've driven by it multiple times.
And you
Again,
don't think that's an eyesore?
sir, as I've previously noted on the record, we will not, under any circumstance, violate the due process rights or the rules that are on the books which we're bound to adhere to. No offense, with all due respect, it's easy to sit on that side of the fence and say, I would do this, this, and this, when you're not familiar with all the rules and the laws, or you're the one that's being held to it. And I am not going to have this township pulled into some lawsuit because all of a sudden we take possession of something that's deemed potentially valuable, and then we get before a judge and they're like, you know what the process is. Next thing you know, we've just frivolously and unreasonably expended taxpayer dollars. So we're going to stick to the process. Unfortunately, it's an exercise of futility here. And you know, we had this, Eric, for some context, over off of Whipple.
Years.
I mean, that was a a 5-6 year deal,
Sure.
and finally she ended up, that individual sold the place and moved it. But again, our hands were tied by the courts.
But here's what I'll say, even with all that said, given that it sounds like he's not being responsive, I think there is an opportunity for us here to go to that next step. Because up to this point, he's essentially been responsive until what I understand the last couple of months. Is that fair, Tom?
He'll take a little bit out,
Yeah.
he'll move things. Essentially, the stuff that he had stacked up behind the trailer, and I would say close to 60% of that stuff is gone. Most of it is in and around the trailer.
Okay.
Maybe moved to the truck, I don't know, but he has taken some of it out. Hopefully, he's putting it in the truck so he can take it again.
Right.
That's
Okay.
what he normally takes the stuff
Well,
out.
why don't we do this, if it makes sense? Why don't we give you guys a couple of weeks to see if you can't reestablish contact? And if that doesn't happen, I'm happy to take it to the next step based upon a lack of cooperation, if that's what the board wants me to do, if that makes sense.
Based upon the prior record and the efforts that were not only visually viewed, but are photo documented within the iWorks system here, if we don't have that level of, collegiality and working to it, I have no problem dropping the hammer, but we're not gonna violate
Right, agreed,
any steps of the process.
yeah. Does that make sense?
No, but I didn't expect it to make sense. I just can't understand, when you want Plain Township people to keep up their property so it becomes more valuable, right? In the long run,
Sure.
then you get more taxes, right?
No, that's not a true statement.
The higher the price of the home,
No.
the higher the more
No.
taxes you get, don't you?
That's not true. How property taxes work, whether it's fire, police, road, is the Board of Trustees propose any one of those levies to the public, and it's set at X mil. What happens is, let's call it a one mil levy. And essentially, the auditor's office will certify, based upon the current property valuations that encompass Plain Township, 1 mil generates X dollars. So when the public goes to the ballot to vote on that 1 mil levy, that levy can never generate any more than what was approved when the rate was certified. Over a period of time, what would happen is, say your property values go up, that 1 mil, its effective rate, in theory, technically decreases. So instead of the 1 that it was originally at, it may be 0.7, 0.8, it really depends. But say, it's also an inverse relationship in that if property values decreased, your effective millage rate would go up. So from a theoretical or how it's perceived, you may go, well, wait a minute, we passed this at 1, but my tax bill's saying the effective rate's like 1.15. Reality is it's still a 1 mil levy.
But
It's
is
gonna-
that based on what the valuation of the house is?
At that time that the levy's requested. So if it's, say, a 5-year 1 mil levy, it's not gonna change. In fact, if anything, what would happen is, you've seen the development of Wicker Creek, Saratoga Hills, the Fountains at Edgewood, a number of the developments in the township. What ends up happening is that taxable amount is now dispersed amongst more individuals. So let's say the 1 mil generates $800,000 for a year, and currently I'm going to spend $35 a year on that. Well, all these additional homes that build out, it may actually reduce my part down to 31, 29, something. It's not gonna, necessarily cut it in half, but it's gonna actually disperse that dollar amount amongst more properties. Now, fast forward, say you get to the end of that levy, and the board comes back and says, we want a renewal, well, then it's still gonna generate the same amount of dollars, no matter what. Where it would change is, say, this year the county auditor's going through a reappraisal every 3 years on their properties. And this board comes and asks for a replacement levy. Well, what a replacement levy does is, it would be the same millage as the original one, but it uses the new valuation. So based upon what we've seen in the last 2.5 years with the crazy, home purchasing prices and so forth, in that situation, it would increase, but that's only under those circumstances.
Well, you can sit there. Then you're agreeing with me, if the price of the home goes up, it's more money made, right?
No, I'm not. I'm not.
I guess I just don't
But-
understand all that
So
rigmarole.
today, you and I, everybody in this room has to vote on a levy, and we say, this 1 mil levy is gonna create $800,000 for the parks, or for the road, or for whatever department. For the life of that levy, it's gonna generate that, it should, if it's fully collected and folks aren't delinquent on taxes, that $800,000. In the meantime, I mean, your property can technically go up in valuation. You're not paying more. That's where the whole 1 mil may become the equivalent of 0.75 or 1.15. So depending upon whether your property value increases or it's not the easiest thing to understand, but for the sake of when you approve a levy, just because the property value goes up does not mean you pay more taxes.
Well, I feel that my property is going downhill because of one individual. And if you talk to the other people that they won't even come over and waste their time, they're in the same boat. And I guess that's what I hate about politicians. They double talk and no action. How
Sir,
many years do I have to go
Sir,
before I
I
get rid
just
of that?
proposed a plan. You don't like the plan?
What's
I
that?
don't understand. I just proposed a plan. Are you not in favor of that plan?
I've been in favor for, he told you,
Sir, it's
Over
quite
a year
simple.
ago.
You want the plan in action or not? They just sat here and said, let's go, we'll do the plan. If he continues to not cooperate, I'll take him to court. What else would you like us to say?
okay, all I'm asking is, when do you think that this is gonna happen?
We just told
I just told you, I'm gonna give them a couple weeks to try to reestablish
A couple of
contact.
weeks, okay? I'll
That's
go
not
with that,
Okay, great, we're on the same page then.
okay?
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else that wishes to address the board? State your name and address for the record.
My name is Dan Ganaba. I live at 1047 Shelley Street, Northeast.
All right.
And you guys know who I am. I've talked to most of you. Hopefully you guys have got my emails and actually read them. And I don't know if you've seen the YouTube channel that I put out there with the photos on there. If not, I encourage you to go look again. You know the water issue that exists at the end of Shelley Street during heavy rains. I just want to know, has there anything been planned to mitigate that situation from the people that live in that immediate area from future floods, now that the catch basin that all the water flowed into is now being filled? Has there anything been talked about?
Dan, I know this has been discussed on a multitude of occasions, and I don't know how we can make it any more clear. This is a private party matter, so your responsibility through your attorney or through direct would have to be to litigate it with them. We've had soil and water out there, the commissioners. This is off-road drainage. There is nothing that the township can do. And to clarify, that entire parcel is not just a catch basin. That was the natural grade of the terrain, so.
In today's day and age with regional planning, that would absolutely be denoted as a catch basin.
No, it would not.
Well, there would be one for the allotment set up somewhere, and generally speaking, it's the lowest point of the allotment, which that tends to be. But anyways, regardless of that, But I feel this man's frustration, because when I come and talk to you people, I get the same thing, it's not our responsibility. When I go to Water and Soil, they say there's nothing we can do because we've got a size problem here, because we need a lot bigger than this to do anything about. When I go to the county, they say it's not my problem, it's not a wetlands. So here's the situation that I can perceive, okay, is when that is filled in and the water goes back up, because you have seen the amount of water in there, you stood out there with me, and do you agree that there's definitely a water problem there?
There's a water flow.
Okay.
But again,
And
it's
so-
all off.
And I've had regional, or water and soil people standing right there with us, said, yeah, you definitely have a problem. So
And-
this problem is going on, so when that water fills up there, and it's coming into my house, I know that, I've already bought flood insurance, it's all I can do. I've gone with the lawyer route, and I've got a lawyer, and I sent them a letter. And the lawyers tell me, sure, we can take them to court, but that's not gonna settle the problem. Number one, you take them to court, and it's gonna cost you a minimum of $7,000 to $15,000, and there's a 50–60% chance that the judge is actually going to find a side for you, because the law states that he has to be, what he's doing is has to be reasonable. And the lawyers that I've talked to have said they don't know that that's what he's doing is not reasonable. So that's a gamble on my part, so that's another situation, another avenue, but again, everybody keeps telling me it's not their problem. Whose problem is it? When a car comes down and you've seen the amount of water flow down that street. I mean, it's almost to my knees in spots. And when a car hits that, spins out, and hydroplanes kill somebody. Is that when we're gonna do something about the drainage issue?
Dan, we've talked that outlet, which sits at the corner of Shelley and Market,
Yes,
is not Plain Township's responsibility.
and it's not the county's issue, and it's not the
ODOT's
state's issue.
It is an ODOT, it crosses Market Avenue, which is an ODOT maintained road.
And nobody wants to, yeah, and so I come to you guys asking for help, okay? Can you guys call ODOT? And
We've
because
actually,
Oh, I have.
we've
We
previously
have.
engaged ODOT on a multitude.
We
of
even went in,
occasions.
they gave us permission when, you remember when we
Yeah,
enlarged
when
it.
you fix that.
The county and I both called ODOT, and that's what we got it enlarged at that time, 2 years, I don't know, it's probably going on 3 years now. But other than that, they're not taking any responsibility. for it.
Absolutely, so what am I to do besides?
I don't know
every
what
time
we're
it
supposed
rains,
to do.
what do I do? I mean, all I do is sit there and wonder, is it coming in tonight? So can you do this for me? On the other side of the street, you guys put in a curb. You put in that pavement curb that goes along there to keep the water in the street. Can you put one on my side of the street too?
If we get the materials, I can do that.
Because that would be greatly appreciated, because then I could build it up on my side of the street, and then that would keep it in the street, forcing it further down the street, which would just push the problem onto the person at the end of the street. And it wouldn't be my problem anymore, because ultimately, that's what I'm forced to do, is because it is my problem. And the builder says, hey, I don't have a problem here, it's not my problem that you're gonna get water. And again, that's what the lawyer's taking care of, and the insurance hopefully that we'll never have to take care of. But then, now I feel bad just because asking you
I
to.
don't understand how this builder's even gonna build a home there without channeling that water some way right away from the house he's gonna build, which would be a ditch all the way around the property or pipe or something, to catch that water coming out, or he's gonna flood his own home.
And I don't feel he's gonna build a home there, because if any builder is gonna tell you, before they fill that in, they're gonna put the foundation in and then fill in around it. But that, I don't know, he does his own thing. But anyways, I would greatly appreciate it if you could do that much. I do appreciate you guys putting in fixing the pipe and then coming back to reseed it. I thank you for that. But yeah, if you can keep me updated on what I need to do. to get that
This
curb
is something I can't do right away because of the materials from the plant, from the asphalt.
Well, that's even if they're gonna be.
If I can
that's
get
even
them,
if they're
right,
available.
Scott. We weren't able to get them last year, they quit making it. the material, so.
That's, the materials are just pavement, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
got
but
a
it's a
different
special-
mixture,
it's
it's
a
got
special
lime in it, it's
type.
got different things, they have to special make it so it stands up. If not, it would just fall over, so.
Or if a tire or a car would happen to
If
hit
you
it,
just
it
bump
would just,
it, yeah.
you know, crumble apart
Can
where.
I do some research on that to help you out?
Well, I'm at the of the plants that we use for asphalt,
Mhm.
so I can't,
They only mix that certain times of the year.
yeah, so.
If they make it.
If they
Yeah,
make
if
it,
they
John,
mix it.
if they make it.
Okay, and I know I keep coming to you, and I know I keep pressing you, but gang, I don't know what else to do. I'm as frustrated as this guy right here, okay? Because, I mean, water's coming into your house, what are you gonna do?
No, exactly.
Okay,
We feel your pain.
so I just, any help you can throw my way, I would appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience to address the board? Okay, that concludes public speaks. Next item, concerns of trustees. First item, Mr. Sabo.
So I'll be brief. I just want to update everybody regarding the Safety and Accident Review Board, which that's the name we put upon this group, charged with the responsibility to look at regular safety meetings and/or updates in addition to the investigation and follow-up of any accidents. And we've had 2 meetings already. We've spent a lot of time in the review of the first accident, but I think it's been worthwhile. Our second meeting was far more productive than our first because I think we have a really good format now. So in the future, any investigations that we would do in accidents, what we're trying to do closely is to integrate our investigation / review of the accident to dovetail into BWC requirements. Let me see, Bill Reed, Chief Reed is on that committee, Tom Farrar is on that committee, Eric Haynes is on that committee. Let me see, we got Ryan
You got Dan Hall.
and Dan Hall. And actually, I'm asking that we put at least one more person from both road and parks on that committee. More from a supervisory capacity, just for the sake of anything the safety board does determine to be a safety follow-up. It's a little easier if we have a supervisor on board to be able to facilitate that. So I think we have a really good format started. I think we're going to see some really good things in the future. And I guess we haven't created a mission statement yet, but I guess if we were going to create one, it's going to say something along the lines of, you know, our goal is to review any accident or near miss, evaluate it, determine whether we have to change the culture, do additional training, purchase additional equipment, whatever the case might be, to hopefully prevent or reduce that type of accident in the future. So these guys have already spent a lot of work on it. They spent a lot of time, and I think if we meet regularly, I think we can do that in a shorter amount of time, you know, once we start getting a feel for what it is we want to accomplish. So I appreciate all those guys that are serving now and those that will be in the future.
Anything else?
No. Tom, you have anything to say?
No, sir.
Bill?
No.
Where's Eric at?
I'm here.
Oh,
No, I
You
thought
got
it
me muzzled in the
Yeah.
back.
thought it went very well, and I thought it was very productive, and I agree with everything you said.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you.
Next item I had, just a reminder for Plain Township residents, the Hall of Fame Marathon is this weekend. So given that's going to impact a portion of the Avondale allotment area, let's make sure we get something out through social media and so forth, just reminding residents of that, direct them to the Hall of Fame Marathon.com site. Okay, nothing else noted. concerns of trustees, concerns of the fiscal officer, anything?
No concerns.
Okay, it takes us to the approval of minutes for April 13th, 2021. Also move.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Abstain.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Okay, we do have a need for executive session, so make a motion be hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to adjourn to executive session at 6:40 PM from this regular meeting is authorized under Ohio Revised Code 121.22G for the purpose of consideration of 1B, employment of a public employer official, 1F, compensation of a public employer official, 3, a conference with the law director or other retained counsel concerning pending or imminent court action.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.